My 22F boyfriend, 23M, and I have been together since high school. We started dating when we were just teenagers. And somehow, despite college, long nights studying, family drama, and all the normal ups and downs that come with growing up, we stayed together. This year marked almost 6 years together. And honestly, he has become more than just my boyfriend. He's my best friend, my safe place, and the person I picture spending the rest of my life with. A few months ago, after I graduated in May, we finally moved into our first apartment together. It wasn't anything fancy. The place is small and we still have mismatched furniture because we're slowly buying things as we can afford them. But it's ours. We split the bills, cook dinner together most nights, argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash, and spend lazy weekends watching movies. It feels like a real home. We're not officially engaged yet because we both agreed we'd wait until he finishes graduate school. He's in the middle of his program, and we don't want to rush into wedding planning while he's balancing classes and research. But we've talked about marriage countless times. We've looked at rings just for fun, discussed where we'd want to live, even joked about what our future kids might look like. To us, getting married isn't a question of if, it's simply a matter of timing. Last week, one of our old high school friends invited us to spend the 4th of July weekend at his family's beach house. We hadn't seen him in a while, and it sounded like the perfect little vacation. He told us a bunch of our old friends would stop by throughout the weekend. There would be grilling, swimming, beach games, fireworks, and just a relaxing holiday together. He never mentioned any special rules or expectations. Friday afternoon, we packed up the car with beach towels, snacks, sunscreen, a cooler full of drinks, and started the 3-hour drive. The entire ride, we talked about how nice it would be to unplug for a few days. When we arrived, the beach house was beautiful. It wasn't some giant mansion, but it was spacious enough for everyone. You could hear the waves from the porch, and there was even a hot tub overlooking the water. Our friend greeted us warmly, helped carry our bags inside, and showed us around. That's when we realized something he hadn't mentioned beforehand. His parents were staying there for the entire weekend, too. Neither of us had a problem with that. After all, it was their beach house. They had every right to be there. If anything, we appreciated them opening their home to everyone. His parents were actually incredibly welcoming at first. His mom hugged us when we arrived and said she'd heard so much about us over the years. His dad offered my boyfriend a beer before we'd even finished unpacking. Throughout Friday afternoon, everyone relaxed on the beach. That evening, we all grilled burgers, played cards, laughed over old high school stories, and eventually everyone ended up sitting in the hot tub with drinks while watching the sunset. Honestly, it was one of the nicest evenings I'd had in a long time. His parents seemed genuinely cool. They joked with us, asked about work, asked about graduate school. His mom complimented my swimsuit. His dad told embarrassing stories about our friend growing up. Nothing felt awkward. If anything, I remember thinking how lucky our friend was to have parents who seemed so laid back. Eventually, it got late. People started yawning. Everyone headed inside to get ready for bed. Our friend had shown us the guest room earlier that afternoon, and we'd already put our bags inside. So my boyfriend and I brushed our teeth, changed into pajamas, and were just about to head into the room when our friend's mom quietly asked if she could speak with me privately. I honestly thought maybe she wanted to ask where we'd put our wet towels, or if we needed extra blankets. Instead, once we were alone in the hallway, she smiled politely and said, "Sweetheart, I just wanted to let you know, since you two aren't married, your boyfriend will need to sleep on the couch tonight instead of sharing the guest room with you." For a second, I honestly thought I misunderstood her. I just stared. She continued, "It's nothing personal. It's simply a rule we've always had in our home. Unmarried couples don't share a bedroom under our roof." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry exactly. Mostly I was caught completely off guard. Nobody had mentioned this before we drove 3 hours. Nobody had warned us. We literally live together. We've shared an apartment for months. We're adults. Still, I understood it was their house. So I simply nodded and quietly said, "Okay." Then I walked back toward the guest room, feeling incredibly awkward. When I told my boyfriend what happened, his expression immediately changed. "Seriously?" I nodded. "They want you to sleep on the couch." He sighed. "I'm not trying to disrespect them, but why didn't anyone tell us before we came?" That was exactly what I was wondering. It wasn't really about sleeping separately. It was about being surprised by a rule after we'd already arrived.
There was only one guest room with a queen-sized bed. The couch wasn't even a pull-out. It was one of those short living room couches that barely fits one person comfortably. My boyfriend is over 6 feet tall. His feet literally hung over the edge. Another issue, I have a really hard time sleeping in unfamiliar places. I've struggled with anxiety for years. Whenever I'm somewhere new, I barely sleep the first night. Being next to my boyfriend helps calm me down. He knows that. It's become part of our routine. So now, not only was I expected to sleep alone somewhere unfamiliar,
He was expected to spend 2 nights sleeping on an uncomfortable couch. We sat quietly for a few minutes trying to decide what to do. Neither of us wanted to cause drama. Neither of us wanted to disrespect his parents. But we also didn't think it made sense to stay uncomfortable when there was another option. Finally, my boyfriend said, "What if we just get a hotel?" I looked at him. "A hotel?" "Yeah. That way they don't have to compromise their rules, and we don't have to sleep separately." Honestly, it sounded like the perfect solution. We weren't asking them to change anything. We weren't arguing. We weren't sneaking into the same room anyway. We were simply removing ourselves from the situation. So we found our friend. I explained gently, "Hey, we totally understand your parents have rules, but since we already live together, we're just going to grab a hotel nearby and come back tomorrow morning." I expected him to shrug and say, "No worries." Instead, he looked strangely uncomfortable. "Oh." He glanced toward the kitchen where his parents were cleaning up. "And okay." His reaction felt odd. But he didn't stop us. He didn't argue. He didn't ask us to stay. So we packed our overnight bags back into the car, found a hotel about 15 minutes away, checked in, ordered late-night pizza, watched TV, and honestly, we both slept really well. The next morning, we figured everything was fine. We texted our friend asking what time everyone planned to head to the beach. Instead, his reply was short. "I'm busy." Confused, we called him. That's when he admitted his parents were furious. Apparently, after we'd left, they were incredibly offended. According to him, they believed we'd rejected their hospitality. They thought getting a hotel was some kind of statement against their family. His mom apparently kept saying they couldn't even respect one simple house rule. His dad reportedly said we were acting entitled. I was honestly shocked. We hadn't complained. We hadn't argued. We hadn't demanded to share the room. We hadn't criticized them. We simply left quietly. I asked my friend, "But wasn't this the easiest solution?" He sighed. "They think you should have just stayed." The conversation became awkward. Eventually, he said maybe we'd catch up later. But later never came. Every time we texted throughout the weekend. There was another excuse. "We're busy. We already left. Maybe tomorrow." Eventually, we realized he simply wasn't interested in hanging out anymore. So instead, my boyfriend and I made the best of it. We explored the beach, found an amazing seafood restaurant, walked the boardwalk, watched fireworks together, visited little local shops, had breakfast overlooking the ocean. Honestly, we still ended up having a really nice holiday. It just wasn't the one we'd originally planned. Monday morning, we drove. Home, I figured. Everyone would cool off after a day or two.
instead, that afternoon my phone buzzed. It was our friend. His message was much harsher than I expected. He said he was angry. He said we embarrassed him in front of his parents. He said all we had to do was sleep separately for 2 nights. He accused us of making everything into a big deal. Then he ended the message by saying, "Because of what happened, we shouldn't expect an invitation to Friendsgiving this year." For context, every November our old high school friend group gets together at his house. It's become our tradition. We've gone every single year. Missing it isn't the end of the world. But it definitely felt like punishment. Since then, I've kept replaying everything in my head. Maybe we should have just stayed. Maybe sleeping apart for 2 nights wasn't that difficult. Maybe we accidentally insulted his parents without meaning to. But another part of me keeps thinking, we respected their rules. We never argued. We never demanded anything. We simply found another place to sleep using our own money. We didn't ask them to reimburse us. We didn't make a scene. We didn't complain to anyone else. We quietly removed ourselves from a situation that made everyone uncomfortable. If we'd stayed and complained, that would have been rude. If we'd ignored their rules, that would have been rude. If we'd secretly slept together anyway, that would have been incredibly disrespectful. Instead, We accepted their boundary and made different sleeping arrangements. That's why I'm still confused. Did we actually do something wrong? Were we supposed to stay even though neither of us was comfortable? Was getting a hotel somehow disrespectful? Or were his parents expecting us to prove something by following their rules even when we had another option? Now our friend is upset. His parents apparently still think we were ungrateful, and we're no longer invited to one of our favorite yearly traditions. So, are we really the ones in the wrong for leaving? Getting our own hotel room, and trying to avoid conflict instead of staying under their roof?